So before we get to the final part, which is mastering the track, I would like to give the project a quick little rundown and see if there are any specific elements that stand out, anything that we might change in terms of the mixing or the arrangement, maybe add a few little nuances and just do a bit of retouching. And what I'd like to do is just, give it a quick little playthrough and pause it in certain sections where I feel like there needs to be some kind of change. So let's do that. Perhaps we could take out the kick here for an eighth note. Yeah, or 2/8 notes. Maybe also the clap here. Yeah, that's always good to have these little kick pauses in between. I might take down the sidechain just a bit, 1 or 2 dB. Perfect. Oh, the clap offbeat is actually still off. Let's mix that in. There we go. Okay, let's pay attention to the ARP now. Now I feel like we could decrease the cutoff just a bit, maybe to around 60 Hertz during the beginning. So it's a bit shorter, snappier. And maybe do the same, take out the kick. Yeah, it's always good to take out the kick for a bar, maybe 2/8 notes, the way I'm doing it here, and also take out that last clap. Makes the arrangement feel a bit more smoother. And I might remove the pluck from the ARP in the pre-drop, so I'm just gonna reduce it back down here. See how that sounds. Yeah, much better. I feel like these are quite loud. Let's take them down a bit here. These two. I'm gonna leave it in here. Maybe take out the kick here. Wow. Nice. Reduce the ride volume here. Very nice. Cool. I'm pretty satisfied with this overall. Let's move on to mastering the track. So in order to master your track, first thing you'd like to do is hit tab. So you're in this panel over here. So you can check the exact level that your track is at. And what I usually like to do is play it around the build up, because this is usually the loudest part of the track. Let's hit tab. It's really quiet now. I keep hitting refresh here. Okay, so the loudest part of our track seems to be around -19, -20 dB. And if you'd like to enter the mastering phase, I would usually like to leave around 6 dB of headroom. This is also the headroom level that most mastering engineers seem to prefer. So we are going to add in a utility plugin and make sure that before we initiate the official mastering phase, we have enough gain to work with, or volume. So I'm going to boost up the track using this gain parameter here until we reach about 6 dB of headroom. Always hit refresh here. Crank it up a bit. All right, so I had to increase the gain by 13 dB to reach around 6 to 7 dB of headroom, which is a perfect enough level to get started with the mastering phase. And first thing I'd like to do is add in an EQ, just like that, to roll off the low end beneath 30 Hertz. Therefore, we're going to take this slope over here, type in 30 Hertz for this guy, and then we're going to head into MS mode, mid-side, go into S, and add in a low cut. Basically do the same thing. Take a bit of a steeper curve and set the frequency to 100 Hertz. So everything beneath 100 Hertz is being set to mono. An alternative way to do this would be by using utility, hitting that base mono, and setting the frequency here. Basically the exact same thing. But I usually like to do it this way because I have a bit more control over the frequency and the curve. After cleaning up the phase of the track, what I like to do is add in a saturator. And of course, this will again increase the overall loudness of the track. So we want to take it quite easy. Maybe like 3 or 4 dB of drive on analog clips. So we're just adding a bit of harmonics and warmth to the track. Awesome. And to be honest, and I don't feel like I need more with this specific track. So what we can do now is add in a Ulean loudness meter, which I really love. This plugin is for free, and it allows you to measure the overall loudness of your track, or how loud your actual track is. And every streaming platform has a specific loudness standard. Spotify has -14 integrated LUFS. We'll get back to that in a second. And other platforms like SoundCloud are currently at, I think, -10 or -8 dB. So the loudness difference is quite different in each platform. But what you usually want to keep in mind is that you want to master it at a level that isn't too quiet for the streaming platforms and not too loud. So I usually go for, depending on the track of course, for about -10, -11, or -12 dB of integrated loudness. So what I'm going to do is add in a limiter before my loudness metering plugin. Plugins, no, audio effects, dynamics limiter, add that right here. And we're going to start increasing the loudness of the track. Pay attention to this unit here. We want to make sure that it's around -11, -12 dB. This is the average loudness of the track. Seems about right. What you want to make sure is that when you're limiting your track, that it's not compressing too much of the signal, because the limiter is basically cutting off everything above a certain level, which is set to minus 0.3 dB. So everything that's going above the ceiling is being drastically reduced in volume. And you can see that with this little gain reduction panel over here. And yeah, you really want to make sure that you don't go too hard. If your track is pumping into the limiter too much and you still can't reach that integrated loudness standard, then you might have to do some readjusting to your individual layers. I'm gonna set the ceiling to -1. And if you'd like to check the frequency distribution of your track, you can load up plugins like Voxengo Span, which do a really good job of telling you how many lows you have, how many mids and highs. And I can see there's a bit of a resonant peak around here, so that might be the low end sound here. So I might want to reduce the peak here. Bit better. Hit Control and dial in on that frequency here. So that's the pluck. Gonna go back into the pluck. Slightly reduce that resonant frequency here, so it doesn't bother our master. Much cleaner. We still seem to have a few resonant peaks, so I'm going to remove those using a EQ. I'm going to put that before the limiter. Disable the low cut here. And just take it out. And you want to make sure that on the master channel you don't have any drastic EQs, so you only want to take about -1 to maximal -3 dB out of the track. And for electronic music, specifically dark techno, you usually want to have a curve that looks like this. So a bit of a smiley U shape. The bass and the high frequencies usually are on the top and the mids slightly dip down, but that's different for every track. Overall, pretty happy with this track. Yeah, I like setting my ceiling to -1 dB. That's also what usually I like setting my ceiling to -1 dB because this is also what most streaming platforms prefer. Some also prefer -2 dB because when you encode a mastered track into MP3, then there usually is a bit of distortion. So whenever you put a track onto a streaming platform, you want to make sure that you leave that 1 dB or 2 dB of headroom by setting your ceiling to -1 or -2 dB. But overall, I'm very happy with this track. All right, that was the mastering.